Okay, so taking one last look at the setup, we have a, do I know my own mics? A Sennheiser 8020 on our left rear. We have a Sennheiser 8020 on the right rear here. Got an Audix D6 as a kick drum mic that we have here just to pick up bass waves. It's probably not going to be, it's going to be the least useful mic of the bunch. We've got some of the wiring running over the car top just for easy clearance. And then again, we've got a DPA 4061 down here tucked under. We've got an action camera on the front as the video reference. We've got another DPA 4061 tucked in down here. And then we've got the barrel adapter. Oh, hold up. Help it focus. So we've got the barrel adapter here. And then we run the mic through the windshield. I use the windshield here because it's a really solid surface for adhering tape to. And we run the mic cables back and along here, just have something nice, clean, and tidy. We have got a couple test contact mics here just to see what we get. And then over here, so everything, come on, focus. Everything terminates in a mess over here. Scott will be holding the F6, and then we'll have the bag set down, just kind of recording to see what it picks up on the mics. I think that's about it. And over here, just to kind of show again, we've got that small cable from the DPA 4082 that's inside the engine bay coming out there. And it's nice, it doesn't have any pulling on it, and we're good to go do a test now. So yeah. So the first thing I figured we'll show is this sort of like DIY suction cup thing. So we've got an 8020 on here with their mounts, stock mounts. And then this is actually a couple different parts. So you buy these suction cups. This is the NovoFlex. Bought them in B&H. And then I also bought a camera shoe adapter going to the 3/8 inch mic thread. So these come stock, just the suction cup and your ball joint here. They come as two separate pieces, put them together, and camera shoe mount. And now you can mount any microphone clip to here. Sometimes I'll use it when we're using one of the DPA 4082s. If I needed them more on like a mount of some kind, you can tape them down here with their with their rubber mounts, shock mounts that come stock with it. So that's also a way of using this. And we're going to use this to help fill a little bit of volume to help, which helps just keep this in place a little bit. So we're going to be using one of these large diaphragm foam. And the location for these is going to be back here. I found that in a lot of different positions that I have tried over the years, this is a low, the way the aerodynamics are, this is kind of a low wind zone here, but if you get out to here, all the wind is kind of traveling. So as long as the mic is kind of in this area, you can set it up nicely. And anywhere vertically from here down to here, so for example, if I had that, what I used to do with one of those, an example of those hypercardioids, I'd get them set up here with the ball joint and kind of angle them at the rear tires this way. And you get really great, tire squeal. You get differentiated left and right rear tire squeals when you have something like this. The actual track could probably bring it up a little bit. They're so loud at the track that the squeals are so loud, and they're very narrow frequency band content. So it's also easy to pick them up. So even if you have this out of the way like this, so you're not getting direct wind into the mic, you're not worried about debris kicking up and hitting the mic, you'll still get very crystal clear recordings of those rear tires, especially in a rear-wheel drive car like this. I'll try to point at the rear wheels so that these are mostly picking up the rear wheels, because I actually want these to pick up the rear wheels more than I want it to pick up the exhaust. Oftentimes exhaust notes aren't super interesting this close to the exhaust, Usually what you're hearing is more like the bass build-up once you're like 10 feet away from the car or something is usually where they sound more interesting. And while this is an aftermarket exhaust, it actually is, I actually don't like it being louder. It was on the car when I bought it. But because it's pushing so much air, this actually is less interesting of a sound in this exhaust than the stock exhaust. Because the stock exhaust is quieter, you actually get better detail. So sometimes that's worth a consideration on whatever the project car happens to be that you're recording. You know, that's all something you might want to test, like on a boom pole with a shotgun, turn the car on and test those things out. But anyways, to stay on topic here. As you can see, these things are surprisingly strong. So here we go. I'm going to angle this out like it's a wide RTF. And then, as usual, we're going to put this foam on first. This is going to go over. We're going to come in a little bit so that this back lip right here is kind of about where the XLR connection is, maybe a little bit over. Because once the mic cable's plugged in, all of this is kind of part of what you can zip tie to. Peace of mind, just make sure you're on there tight. So that we don't need to worry about it. We may only need this today. If we're going to stay under 70, 90 miles an hour, that might be enough. So long as these are actually out of the aerodynamic path in the car. But today, just so we don't have to mess around once we're out there, we'll just go ahead and do the full fur as if I was on the track. So this comes on over it. And then we're going to want to get our mic cable plugged in first. So that's going to be part of what we can zip tie to help keep everything tight. On. That would probably be good enough for the track. But if you're at all paranoid because it's personal gear, you can also add some excessive gaff tape. And although this looks like it's not going to do much of anything, you would be surprised how much, as long as the gaff tape is sort of like tape to itself here. The nice thing about the tape, the zip ties are better in terms of just clamping down on it. The nice thing about the tape is much more resistant to like friction movement. So left, right, sliding. So it's, you know, I don't know. I've never lost the mic at the track or anything, but this is what I would do to ensure that I don't lose everything. Because this clip is really strong that the 8020 is in, but even if the 8020 came out of the clip, it wouldn't be going anywhere because of the cable's also part of this, plus the zip tie and everything. Because there's you just cannot test these setups with the actual forces that are on the track on the street. You just can't. So every one of those heats that you have is really precious in terms of getting good takes. And then here, you want to always make sure you leave a little bit of slack here. You don't want this to be super tight. So just like any cable management, you want a little bit of slack here. You'll see on the other side, we've got a little bit of spring in the cable. And that just helps that, you know, if the car bounces, the suspension moves as you have hard G turns left and right, that you're not pulling at the cable, that it's got some space to move. And then here on these I will kind of tape a little bit tight. And then through the top of the hood here. And the reason we're going to go through the top and not around the side, when you start to close it, we have a lot more clearance here. So even if the hood is all the way closed, we're not crimping it at the edges, we're running through here. Pattern. So in case it loses suction, we'll just get it up in here. Just get as much on the kind of ball suction mount as you can. We'll get one that way. And then one the other direction here. And these are just kind of help. Now the thing that really actually keeps these in place though is the crossover on them. So this piece of tape is what prevents these from coming loose. So it's almost like between this, the suction cup, and this, and the safeties here, you've got a few redundancies. But it's this cross over here. This is the one that keeps everything on. The interesting thing is, since I had the engine failure and then we turned it into a project car because buying a used car was actually going to be more expensive than Frankensteining it. So we added this IPD plenum, which gets a little more airflow to the engine. This is an additional oil cooler. But the interesting thing is there used to be an engine mount or like a hook so that you could attach a chain to like kind of pull the engine out. There used to be one coming up right here, and they actually cut it off. So that used to be my perfect mounting point. So what you want to know about the engine, and the challenge with mid-engine cars like this, is you don't have easy access to the hood at the front. There's a gap for air underneath the car with an air diverter that'll bring air up into the engine to help cool the whole assembly. But it's very difficult to get to under the car. So you need to spend a little bit of time figuring out where your heat points are. Because if you tried to strap a mic to this, that airflow, you're gonna either melt the mic, the adhesive will get melted, or it'll fall off. So you have to be careful about that. Now this is an aluminum part. This is actually producing most of the interesting like higher harmonic whine in the car. So I'm also probably going to pick here. One, this is easy to use gaff tape to get one of these. We're going to be using one of these DPA 4082s. They come, and you can see that this has been, you can see that mount, it's been under some heat. So I've had these in the engine bay, I don't know, 4 or 5 events now. And they still work great. They still pick up a voice or a violin really nicely. Temperatures inside here will get hot. They probably are 120, maybe 130 degrees. I spent years not putting these mics in here out of a fear that the $600 mic would just get cooked and then I'd lose it. So it took me years to feel safe enough to trying it, and then it was fine. So what I'm probably going to do is, I think this is the most interesting sounding part on the top half of the engine here. Probably going to try to get this nestled in here and get this taped up like this, where it's pointing in. If you can see that, Scott. So it's pointing in at this IPD and picking up all that kind of air rushing through it, because it also produces these cool kind of like type elements when you're accelerating or decelerating. So I think that's what I'm going to target for this test recording. As always, the first job is clean your surface, because whether it's front or mid-engine or rear engine, there's probably air getting in there somehow, which means there's going to be road dirt, there's going to be oil, rubber debris, pollen, you name it. So you always want to get in there, since we're mounting. I'm going to spray it down. If you have anything in there where you're worried about residuals, smoking, or anything, use water. I'm not worried about it with the Windex. And I don't know if you can see this detail on the mic, but you can already tell how much cleaner this is from where there's like dust and pollen and other grossness. And that'll definitely prevent even gaffing tape will have a problem with that, because it's also going to get heated up in here. Okay. Now with these guys, there's a little gap in here, and we can use a really thin strip and That's too thick. It's probably too, yep, that's too wide. There, that should be a little bit easier. And then I just do just a little crimp at the end. Just makes it a little easier to feed it through. Oh, gotcha, motherfucker. Got it. Okay. So then I use this as just like an initial, a little bit of a sticky. This is not going to actually hold the mic on, but this will get it on in place so that I can reinforce it. Okay, so we're going to use this. I think I want the mic like kind of underneath it. Grab the tape on the one side, this on the other. And now we've got a solid tape to tape connection. So even, or solid enough. So even if it was having trouble, as long as you can be tape to tape, you've got enough grip to reinforce it. So then, kind of same principle. I'm going to use this over the existing tape, and we're going to go a little bit of an angle so we get good coverage across it. I think it's because this mic has an odd mount. There we go. That's what we want. Tape over tape. So that's where we're going to have our 4082. So if we solo that perspective in the resulting recording, that's where it is, and that's how close it's sitting to the IPD plane. All right. So the last thing, because there will be air in here, so if I left that mic without wind protection, we'd probably get just a whole bunch of wind blowing it out frequently. If I remember correctly, these are actually for the 4099s, so they're a little too short for the barrel, but it's the best thing. I've struggled for a long time trying to find something in the right form factor to slip over these. I may not, I won't be able to get it buttoned on this location. So, zip tie to the rescue. That's got a good wrap around it. All right. Let's try to be dexterous this time.
Screw just died.
That's all right. Okay. All right, I am very happy about this. This is not going anywhere. So now we've got this small cable to deal with, and there's an engine shield that goes on top of here. And we can't run the car. I mean, you can run the car, but what will happen is it creates a vortex throwing heat up and having wind come from behind you and exit the windows when you're driving. It's a little bit of an odd effect, but this heat shield needs to go back on top before we start getting back on the road. So to help prevent crinking or pinching on the cable, I'm going to run it kind of flat like this over this area. And you'll see there's almost this kind of like depression in here. So even though it'll crimp a little right here, we've got a compression here and we have slack. So we want to make sure when this comes down, this part of the cable also has slack. And this part of the cable has just enough slack, so if it shifts or moves or anything, we're not like yanking on the back of the mic or anything. And also, if it did happen to come off entirely, it's not hanging down very far. It'll probably be fine if something like that were to happen. So again, we have our little pre-stripped utility convenience here. And then we have it in the channel right there. It's loose, and then get that together. Now we can button her back up. And the other nice thing is you'll see there's kind of a cushiony, there's foam on the back, is because this also helps dampen sound a bit. Although there's a whole another piece of foam that usually goes on top of this that is nothing but sound dampening, so that's quieter inside the car. But I like hearing my engine inside the car, so I leave it off. So, but you can see there's a little bit of spring, and that's the other nice thing is we don't really have to worry about the cable too much. It's not metal on metal. There is padding on the back there. And we've got our center engine mic set up now. So we've got our rear perspective stereo. This will be part of either the middle or the center channel. And now we've got to get our DPA 4061s, and we're going to get them in their locations by the front wheels. This is actually a condensation exhaust hose, or I don't know, whatever outlet, whatever you call it, for the air conditioning. So this will drip out water here behind it. But what we're going to do is we're going to be getting the DPA lab snuck up right under here so that wind kind of gets out of this way. It's going to be poking out this side, and we're going to pick up a ton of tire noise by putting it here. And this is about one of the only locations. I've tried things with Baffles outside over here. This is the only location I found that actually really works well, that even at like 120 miles an hour, we're still getting clean recordings. The sound of the wheels moving 120 miles is basically white noise, but we're getting it clean without wind. And there's not a lot of spots, because when you look inside wheel wells, there's nothing inside the wheel well where you can really safely put the mic. And so, as usual, the very first step is we're gonna try to prepare the surface as best we can, because this is a very one of the other things too is it's always handy to have like upholstery foam, thin things like this, or thicker pieces around, because to get in there to help, I don't want to just put the mic in. We're going to use this as kind of a like a soft little bit of mic mount. So we get this kind of foam, and if you really want to do it this way, that the cable can come through. And this helps it fit into these cavities where it can kind of expand a little bit. It'll just help seat it in. It also helps it from like moving around and crinkling, other things like that, cable noise. Just helps keep everything together. On this time, I have in the past, I might use a little gaff tape, close it here, but I know the space is really tight, so I don't think we're going to need it. I think I'll be able to just get it in and then just gaff around it to keep everything in place. So if you want to come back around to this low angle over here, let's see if we can get this in a relatively easy shot. So we're going to run the cable through the back. Here I just added some gaff tape. This doesn't stay on very well, so this just helps keep the softy on it. The cable coming out the back. I'm going to use this foam. Tuck the mic in. I don't necessarily want the mic actually fully exposed, and this should, with the fur, we'll find out. This should. Now, what I have done in the past on the track, tire squeals and such are so loud that it doesn't matter. I actually taped over the front here. But the problem I had is that the lateral G-force on the track was strong enough that you could hear the tape crinkle in and out on that last recording I had in Texas before I moved out here. So this is in there pretty good. I'm going to bring it out just a little bit. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't even need to tape that, at least for today. But now we're going to tape that together. Part of the other reason I just taped it up was it was easier than getting this to tape correctly. So I'm just going to put a little tape just to keep the wire connected to the plastic here. And I'm not going to try to feed a zip tie this time through here.
I've already lost some of the phone location. There we go. Get in there. There we go. And then, as usual, tape to tape. Keep it in place. Now, if I were at the track, I would be worried about this being too windy, this location. But actually, okay. Now with the plastic shielding up, I just want to make sure we don't get. Well, I never run AC at the track, so that won't be a problem. But if I was worried about it, I'll try to get that hose out of the way a little bit. Pack this guy up here a little bit. I think that'll be good, but we'll find out. And then, you know, same thing. We're going to clean the surface on this because it's running so close to the wheel and so close to the road surface. We are going to keep this relatively tight because if this did fall out, we don't want it dangling along the road, or hopefully it's sitting here and dangling down here. So we are going to take this up a little bit more cautiously than some of the other parts. Same thing as usual. Keep a healthy amount of slack there. And unlike what I did this time, this is why usually I cut my strips first. Okay. A little slack. And what I usually do when we have something round like this, instead of just pulling the tape tight like this, push around the edges so you kind of create this pocket with the tape. And this is going to have much better results than if I pull this tight and try to do something like this. And see that gap there? That's what you don't want, because that's going to loosen up over time. It makes it harder to do your, you know, I'll just keep calling it cross hatching. And then if you need to check and just make sure, you can open the car door. Even if the window was up, the window recesses into here. So we have no contact with the window. The driver can come in and out. There's no wires hanging down in front of their faces. And now you've got a good surface to do your peace of mind crosshatch. To be honest, I usually don't do this with cables. Usually don't need to, but now you can see if you have this little pocket, you put your crosshatches down, that's not going anywhere at all. Okay, so what I'll use sometimes as an extra channel is I'll use a kick drum mic and put it kind of over here to the exhaust. I find it's actually more satisfying for things like car door opening and closings. Even though you put it back here, if you open and close the front door, you get this nice, like, boom, nice sub reinforcement, even though it's all the way back here. Just those waves travel in a really satisfying manner to it. But obviously, we have a bunch of wind. The diverter right here, I'm putting down a push down force. And with this, what Porsche does here with these, with the rear spoilers,
is at around 70 miles an hour, they actually go up. So they'll actually extend up and out, which opens an air gap here. So this is not actually going to block any wind. So usually what I'll do is, I used to have one saved off, and it's just, I think it's packed away right now. So we're just going to build a little diverter out of cardboard, tape, and foam. So I probably, sometimes when you have like a seam already, it works nicely for what we need to build. You just cut it out, and then we probably need that much of the time. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of build a little baffle here, and the mic's going to sit underneath it. And so I can just take it off right here. And it doesn't need to be perfect, at least not for this. If I was, I would go find the one I held on to if I were at the track or something. Okay. So usually what I'll do is, if I'm going to plan to have this side on the car, I'll add a little bit of foam here just so we don't have any problems with that. So just put this up against the foam. And always put a fresh blade in if you're going to be cutting foam. So it's this easy. I think we'll do that. There. Put the Audix mic right here. And I think that'll work well for today. Just driving on the street. Put one more. Just to cover up a potential seam here. I doubt any air would actually squeeze through enough to be an issue, but just in case. The nice thing is, the D6 fits perfectly in the same large diaphragm. I don't remember which ones I got, but it's pretty much a perfect diameter for the D6. So we just shove the D6 in there, and we don't need to do anything. I used to try to put it on a suction cup mount like the others, but I don't bother anymore. I'm just going to go straight on. I do want to run the cable out to the right. So we just put it about right here, like this. And yet, normally if I did this in the, I did this in the wrong order. Normally I put this on first, then put this on, but again, for what we're doing today, it's not going to matter. And like before, just like with the XLR adapter, we're going to try to get a nice kind of loop on here before we get the tape. Now what you're going to find is that, yes, its weight is going to be pulling. And if we left it like this, it would not be safe for the mic anyways. But once we get our cross hatching, and again, the nice thing with tape, this is not going to move left or right. It's really strong on, it'll be able to pull this way and come off, but it's not going to move left or right. The adhesive on this is just the